Okay, finishing up with the second article that was assigned by Rosenthal. Now, this article marks our first introduction of psychology into this course, and this one offers kind of an interesting perspective that psychology can integrate justice and equity as continual agendas. The article presents intersectionality as inherently counter hegemonic and critiques current scholarship for sometimes flattening this concept by focusing solely on multiple identities rather than also addressing the structural inequities and political struggles that shape those identities. This reinforces our earlier discussion that we must consider both the production of identities and their political potential to challenge structural inequities. The article argues that intersectionality is particularly relevant for psychology because oppressions impact the entire spectrum of the human experience. When studying or working with people, it's essential to consider how interlocking systems of oppression and political forces affect individuals. For example, research on transgender youth shows that when they're supported by communities that validate the multiplicity of their identities and provide necessary medical care, their psychological well being is comparable to that of other young people. On the other hand, when that support is removed or their identity is denied, rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation increase significantly. So, in this way, intersectionality not only deepens our understanding of bias in psychology, but also prompts us to examine how structural modes of oppression influence psychological outcomes. And by embracing an intersectional approach, psychology can more effectively address and dismantle the systemic inequalities that affect human lives. In this article, Rosenthal discusses psychological research, noting that the complex dynamics of intersectionality amongst both oppressed and privileged groups can yield both benefits and harms, effects that we need to study. Psychological research then can deepen our understanding of the multifaceted psychological experiences of diverse individuals. This idea echoes the first article's argument that individual experiences provide new insights into well being and self expression. Moreover, intersectionality calls on us to address structural oppressions and promote social justice and equity within our research. Rosenthal also emphasizes that the importance of using intersectional frameworks in teaching to make power visible and to explain subjugated knowledges and develop structures for empowerment is kind of critical. So I'm going to pause here because we haven't previously discussed the concept of subjugated knowledge. This idea is drawn from Foucault, and Foucault suggests that the dominant discourse of any era can obscure alternative ways of understanding. This is the knowledge that is suppressed or marginalized. When we return to the CRC, we see that they were responding to this very issue. They recognized that the experiences of being black, gay, and female were largely ignored, and they sought to elevate that subjugated knowledge. This particular action sparked strategies for empowerment and laid the groundwork for universal liberation. The article also addresses psychology's clinical edge by arguing that intersectionality encourages clinicians to consider how clients' intersectional identities interact with societal structures that generate privilege and oppression. And in doing so, it moves beyond focusing solely on individual interpsychic concerns. Instead, it emphasizes understanding how an individual's lived experiences of oppression fit within a broader structural framework, an essential perspective for effective clinical work. Rosenthal outlines three key questions for psychologists in regard to intersectionality. And the first is, what is included in this category? So when examining a diagnostic category or a specific group, what multiple identities and systems of oppression are involved? This includes considering all the diverse identities and the intersecting oppressions that might influence any set of pathologies or struggles. The second is, what role does inequity play? So in teaching, researching, or clinical work, we have to ask, how does inequity impact the situation that we're examining? And the third question is, what are the similarities between various groups? By identifying commonalities across different groups, we can begin to understand the collective systems of oppression and pathways to liberation. Rosenthal also proposes a series of strategies to address these questions, and there's a really excellent chart in the article that lays these out very, very clearly, lays out all of these ideas very clearly. She suggests that our strategies should include engaging and collaborating with communities in the broadest sense of the term. So we need to address and critique existing social structures and actively build coalitions. This particular approach resonates with a key statement from our own humanistic psychology program, which is Division 2032, which asserts that, and I'm going to quote this, humanistic psychology is committed to social justice, human rights, and human dignity. Humanistic psychology believes in the equal rights of all human beings to dignity, respect, fairness, and justice. So this statement provides a solid foundation for integrating intersectionality into humanistic psychology. By building coalitions around these ideas, we can work to ensure that our discipline remains accountable to these very, very lofty goals, even when they're not always fully realized in practice. Rosenthal also emphasizes the importance of addressing both resistance and resilience. While a lot of our focus tends to be on resilience, we can't overlook resistance. For example, several years ago, a narrative therapy approach to anorexia, known as the Anti-Anorexia League, highlighted the diverse subjugated knowledges of individuals who experienced anorexia. This approach linked personal experiences with the structural oppression exerted by the media and societal standards regarding women's bodies, embodying the principles of intersectionality. If you want further information about narrative therapy, which is an amazing way not just to work with people and work with communities, but it's also a really interesting way to think through some of these things that we've been looking at in this class, I would suggest that you start with the very first book, and that is by White and Epstein. And I believe it's just called Narrative Therapy. If I got that wrong, I'll let you know next time I see you. Finally, at the end of this article, Rosenthal advocates for teaching a social justice curriculum, which I hope is precisely what we've been doing not only in this class, but we will continue to do in this class. We will be revisiting this idea later on in this term. And those are the 3 short little lecture videos for you today. And I will be posting some thoughts for our discussion that I hope to take up on Thursday. I will see you then.